How's it going, guys? Nintendo Enthusiast here. Today I wanted to talk about Windbound for Nintendo Switch. But before that, I wanted to shout out you guys, the viewers who always comment on my videos as soon as I post them. It really means a lot. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoy Switch reviews or news or reactions, hell, maybe hit that subscribe button and give the channel a shot. Now, on to Windbound. Windbound has two different options. Survival mode, where the combat is more challenging, and if you die, you start completely over. And then Storyteller mode, where if you die, you don't start completely over, but you do start back at the beginning of your latest chapter. And the combat is apparently easier as well, but I still found it to be pretty challenging. So yes, I chose Storyteller mode, mainly because the survival mode just does not speak to me at all. If there's one thing I don't like, it's losing precious time. So if I had died and had to start completely over, I honestly probably would have just quit right there. Not to say this isn't a survival game on Storyteller mode, because it very much is. But first, let's jump into the story. Aside from the opening cinematic and a few short cinematics in between, there is not much story to Windbound. Your crew, who you never hear from again after the beginning, gets separated after an attack by a giant monster. You pass out and wake up on an island with nothing. Thus, your journey begins. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing really to even spoil. There is some symbolic stuff throughout the game, but I honestly didn't really catch on to much of it, and I wasn't really worried about it. So this game has been getting compared to Breath of the Wild a lot, and I think most of that is because of the combat, the sailing, and the art style. But honestly, the similarities pretty much end there. Here's the rundown of your goal in Windbound. You start a chapter and explore the sea to find 3 stones. After you get all 3 stones, you build stairs and go into another portal. Then your sailing skills are tested in between chapters. And afterwards, you'll arrive in a new sea to explore and repeat 4 times. Of course, that's the extremely simplified explanation. You'll spend most of your time in Windbound searching the open sea. During these different chapters, you'll need to craft. You'll be crafting a boat, weapons, a fire to cook meat, and much more. The crafting is easy to grasp and not overwhelming like a lot of survival games, and I really appreciated that. I'll be honest, I was scared jumping into a game like this, but luckily it wasn't overwhelming. So yeah, like I said, the main goal is to find 3 stones and take them into the portal. And you might be wondering why you wouldn't just sail to each island and rush to the end. This is where the survival elements come to play. Your character's hunger bar will slowly dwindle throughout the game, and you have to make sure it stays up, because once it gets down to 2 bars, your health starts going down. And though the survival elements are the crux of the game, this is honestly my least favorite part. Mainly because the game is just so fun to exist in, and I never wanted to rush through it. But unfortunately, because my character was constantly starving, I was always rushing to the next island to kill some animals, cook the meat, and keep my hunger up. It makes me wish the game had a mode where your hunger went down at like half the speed. I feel like it just goes down a bit too quickly. And it's pretty darn stressful because, like I said, if you die, you start all the way back at the beginning of the chapter, potentially losing an hour or 2 of progress. Though I'll be honest, what I did was I would constantly save, and if my health got down really low, I would just reload my last save. Or if you're a madman like I was for a minute, there was one time I got really far into a chapter, but my health was really low, so I saved my game to the cloud. And when I died, I simply downloaded that cloud save and started over. Yeah, I know it's cheating, but like I said, I hate losing progress. Windbound is a survival game with action-adventure elements when I think I would like it more if it was an action-adventure game with survival elements. But what can you do? I still like the game, and that's that. As each chapter goes on, the sea will get bigger and bigger, and the monsters will get harder to kill. Therefore, you'll want to explore the sea as much as possible, because on certain islands in the sea, you can go to these shrines and up your health and hunger bars, which is very, very important. I cannot stress that enough. One thing that was a huge turnoff when jumping into Windbound, aside from it being a survival game, was that the levels are randomly generated. I'm not sure what is all randomly generated, if it's the order of the levels, or if it's the actual islands within the levels, but this could be really good for you or really bad for you. I got really unlucky a few times not finding anything useful on an island while my hunger bar dwindled. I would constantly barely make it by the skin of my teeth. It made the game really intense, which is pretty cool, but like I said, since it's such a pretty game and it has a beautiful soundtrack, you just kind of want to relax and slow down a little bit, but I was never really in the position to do that, and the one time I did, I had to restart the chapter. As I mentioned before, Windbound has been compared to Breath of the Wild, and one of those similarities is the combat. It uses a simple lock-on, striking, and roll mechanic that gets the job done. But sadly, it just feels a little stiff overall, and the camera can be really wonky at times. But what's cool is you can get other items like a bow and arrow or a rock sling, but I'll be honest, I felt the most competent with a spear, and luckily you can enhance your spear. That's one thing I haven't mentioned yet. Throughout the sea, you can collect this currency that you can use in between chapters. There are upgrades that you can add to your character, like a spear that doesn't break or being able to swim for longer, and that can really come in handy throughout the game. Unfortunately, I was only able to equip one at a time, and I thought that was really odd, so I reached out to the developer, and they said sooner or later you can add 3 to your character, but I was never able to do that. So obviously I must have missed something, but either way, these enhancements are a nice addition. You might be wondering how it runs on Nintendo Switch. Well, it has a really pretty art style, reminiscent of Breath of the Wild, of course. Obviously not on that level, but definitely impressive for a smaller game. I actually played through the game on PS4 and Nintendo Switch, and unfortunately the Switch version suffers from pop-in more than anything. You can see rocks popping in front of you just a few feet away, and that kinda pulled me out of the experience, especially after playing the PS4 version. But once again, it's nothing unbearable. I also noticed the texture quality is downgraded on Switch, but luckily it doesn't really matter much because the art style is so simplistic. You probably won't notice much of a difference unless you play the PS4 or Xbox One version like I did. There's also some stuttering throughout the game, and you might notice some weird animations every now and then, but ultimately it's a pretty game and it gets the job done. At the end of the day, Windbound is a survival game, and unfortunately that's just not what I'm into. But the exploration and action-adventure elements kept me engaged throughout the entire game. I honestly couldn't put it down. If you're really into survival games, then this is definitely a game you'll want to check out. But if they're the bane of your existence, then you should probably skip Windbound. If you're like me and not really into survival games but open to trying something out, I think it's worth picking up. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you didn't, hit that thumbs down. And if you're feeling really generous, hit that subscribe button and maybe even that notifications bell if you want to be alerted for all my reviews, impressions, news, reactions, and all that crazy stuff I upload. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.